Uh, will never go away. It'll always be with me. And I think I saw somewhere the sadness is a reminder of how much he means to me. Just feel like, I did something right in life with him,
We will never know. I don't think any of us will never know what the truth is, and you're talking about there's so many different aspects to.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family in Costa Rica. Joining us now, Bomani Jones, host of the Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
Welcome back to your daily dose of scandal and glamour. Regina King just dropped the confirmation fans have been whispering about for weeks. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just pass away, he was taken out. And whatever truth he was about to spill before his death must have had somebody shaking in their boots, because the way this all went down, too clean, too sudden, and way too quiet. The official reports claim he drowned in Costa Rica, but here's what they're not saying. No word on exactly where he was staying, who was with him, or even who called it in. No eyewitness statements, no leaked photos, no timeline, nothing. Just a neat little note saying, accidental submersion, and then radio silence like it never happened. And let's be real, Malcolm wasn't the type to move recklessly. He wasn't on a downward spiral, and he definitely wasn't hiding from the spotlight. He was sharp, respected, and still active in his craft. For something this extreme to happen right now? Nah, it's not sitting right. What really sent fans into theory mode is what he was working on. A tell-all memoir that...
Grief is a journey, I understand that grief is love that has no place to go. I know that it's important to me to honor Ian in the totality of who he is.
According to insiders, was set to drop names, not for clout, but to finally tell the raw truth after decades of watching Hollywood's dirtiest moves unfold from the inside. The timing? Suspicious. The speed? Almost surgical. And Regina King's response only made it feel shadier. The second news of Malcolm's death broke, she quietly posted 2 Instagram stories and then vanished from social media completely. No follow-up, no public tribute, no interviews, just gone. She didn't talk to the press. She didn't drop a heartfelt caption. She didn't even acknowledge the so-called drowning at all. Just 2 quiet Instagram slides. One, a shot of Malcolm riding a motorcycle, and a single line. Some people leave a lasting imprint, not just for who they were, but for the energy they carried. The second, just 3 words, ride in power. At first glance, it feels like a simple tribute, but read it again.
Honestly, my biggest feeling is I feel sad for, just the way this whole, just the way the whole story has come about. And when you've done so much wonderful, so many wonderful things for so much of your career.
And the energy shifts. She's not sounding like someone reacting to a sudden tragic accident. She's talking like someone who already knew exactly what went down. No rest in peace, no mention of a drowning, no talk of shock, disbelief, or how unexpected this all was. It's almost like she was saying goodbye to someone whose fate had already been sealed. Like this wasn't just a loss, but something she'd been bracing for. And here's the part that's got people really side-eyeing. Regina doesn't post carelessly. When she speaks, every word is chosen, especially when it's about death. After losing her own son in 2022, she went completely silent for weeks before releasing any public statement. And when she finally spoke, it wasn't just emotional, it was deliberate, controlled, and protective. Now compare that to how fast and oddly detached this post about Malcolm was. It doesn't feel random. It feels like a message, one only certain people were meant to understand. And if you've been watching her moves for years, you already know Regina King never moves without a reason.
The thing with Isaac Cappy, that's personal to me. Your biggest issue is the things that Aquino and his group taught me to do are fun, and I'm really good at it. Enjoy the dark, bro.
The totality of who Malcolm was makes Regina's silence all the more chilling. On one hand, it's not surprising she played it close. That's her style. But on the other, it's definitely not normal. We're talking about a man she lived with, trusted, and shared years of her life with. So why didn't she say more? Or maybe the real question is, why couldn't she? Because the deeper people dug into what Malcolm was working on before his death, the more this stopped looking like tragedy and started smelling like a takedown. That memoir wasn't just about his life. Word is, it was set to blow the lid off everything he'd been told to keep quiet about. The secret parties, the backroom deals, the victims whose voices were never supposed to be heard again. And here's the kicker. Some of the names in those pages, still walking around, smiling for cameras, like nothing ever happened. Insiders say Malcolm had been collecting stories the public never heard, even speaking openly about how the Cosby scandal personally shook him, not just because of what came out, but because of what it exposed about people he once idolized. He saw the industry mask slip, and he never forgot it. And here's where it gets even more serious. There's talk Malcolm wasn't writing this memoir alone. Rumor has it he was teaming up with 2 other insiders, both with legal backgrounds, to fact-check every single detail before release. This wasn't about chasing headlines. This was about dropping the unfiltered truth and doing it in a way nobody could shut down. That's when the fans started speaking up loud and clear. One person dropped a comment saying, "It's too many stories. It's nauseating." Just like Angie Stone, I'm surprised Malcolm drowned because he was known to be a good swimmer. Rest in heavenly peace, Malcolm. Another asked straight out, very suspicious, why would he be swimming in dangerous waters with his young daughter? And let's be real, Malcolm wasn't the first, and sadly, he won't be the last. The entertainment industry has a long, ugly history of people vanishing or accidentally dying right when they start talking too much or digging too deep. We've seen the pattern play out over and over. Someone speaks up, suddenly the industry goes silent, and then out of nowhere, that person steps back, loses everything, or disappears for good. Look at Isaac Cappy, the actor who publicly called out Hollywood's elite before mysteriously falling from a bridge. Official reports called it suicide.
Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Albie Shore was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma.
But friends swear the whole thing was staged. In one chilling clip, a close friend breaks down exactly why he believes Cappy didn't take his own life, that it was set up to look like an accident. Sound familiar? So now, when you see Regina's moves, the silence, the vague posts, the total disappearance from the public eye, it doesn't just read as mourning, it reeks of fear, and you can understand why. Because if anyone knew Malcolm inside and out, his mind, his habits, his truths, it was her. And maybe that's exactly why she's staying quiet. Because in this game, knowing too much can be the most dangerous thing of all. She knew exactly what Malcolm stood for. She knew what he was planning to unleash, and if she's not stepping forward to demand answers, it's probably because she already knows the price that comes with it. We've seen this before. People set out to write memoirs, to tell their truths, and somehow they end up gone. And yes, I'm talking about what Jaguar Wright warned about years ago when it comes to high-profile names in this industry. Some fans are even convinced Regina might have pieces of Malcolm's memoir in her possession, sent to her before he died, not for her to publish, but to protect. And if that's true, it explains everything. Because if even half of what he wrote is as explosive as people claim, just holding on to that truth would be playing with fire. That would put Regina right in the crosshairs of the same machine Malcolm was up against, a place she swore she'd never be again. So maybe her silence isn't cluelessness. Maybe it's survival. Maybe she knows she could be next. And now, Malcolm's case has fans revisiting other so-called accidents we brushed aside or forgot. People who vanished from the spotlight. People found dead after publicly threatening to speak out. Some were tied to powerful families, others to untouchable industry figures. Different names, different years, but the same chilling pattern every single time. Some had deep industry ties that were never explained. And every time, the story got buried, the press moved on, and the truth vanished into thin air. Malcolm didn't want to be another name on that list, but now, tragically, he is. And the worst part? We may never know exactly what he was trying to expose unless someone close to him, maybe Regina, maybe another trusted ally, decides the truth is worth risking everything to release. Here's the part almost nobody's talking about, and it might just explain the whole thing. According to a source close to Malcolm, the reason he held off finishing his memoir wasn't writer's block, it was protection. He was trying to shield certain names, survivors of abuse, people who'd been blackmailed, people who were pawns in scandals bigger than anyone realized. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. The second he hit publish, the fallout wouldn't just destroy the predators, it would drag survivors into the spotlight too. So he waited. He sat on those drafts, circling them for years. And then, finally, when he decided to move forward, suddenly, everything stopped. No warning, no build-up, just silence. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is. But here's where the spark of hope comes in. Because word is, a digital copy of that manuscript still exists. Maybe it's locked away in the cloud. Maybe it's sitting on a backup drive he slipped to someone he trusted completely. And if that's true, then this story isn't over, not by a long shot. The question now is, who's brave enough to bring it into the light? So now every day that passes without answers, that's just more time for people to clean their tracks. But eventually, if that file surfaces and the names in it are real, the entire industry could collapse. And the people who've been silent this whole time, they won't be able to hide anymore. That's why they needed Malcolm gone. That's why they're hoping we stop asking questions. But if even one person breaks ranks and releases what he left behind, it's game over, and somebody in Hollywood knows that clock is ticking. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.